Bring Bernie in. Bernie's brought to us by Mazda, moving the game forward for everyone who believes it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it, because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go that extra yard, to shift into that extra gear and keep the game moving, just like Bernie did during his illustrious playing career for the Cleveland Browns. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda. Mazda, move and be moved.
Bernie, I know your dad passed away recently. I just wanted to share my condolences with you. How you doing? How's your family?
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's been a big stretch physically, personally, and then family-wise, you know, with my father passing, the family, God, my mother, and things that we've been going through. So really appreciate you guys and your
that and your surgery in the similar.
Yeah, so being able to manage that and you know, deal with the arrangements and that, and to actually be coming over here today, fresh from last night. I got called to where I thought I actually was going to be getting the liver transplant, and having a no-show on you today. So they did not. The liver ended up being infected, so I didn't get it. So in the spirit of being a wannabe humorist and a scarred Catholic, one of the things is you gain a lot of weight, so you go plus and minus about 40 pounds a week.
Really?
Yeah, so I'll go from the slender, aborted Bernie Kosar, who now has lost about 35 pounds, but this morning I came here fresh from a stomach drain. So I started the day at about 230, and now I'm about 190.
What?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, it took about 8 or 9 liters of fluid out. So that's kind of the routine I'm in until they find a liver on top of, you know, some of the.
We hope it happens soon.
Let me ask you this on a personal side, like, how has, you know, just developing a certain level of mental toughness with football help you get past some of your issues when you were older? Because it's like, for a lot of people, you get up and you just put your stuff on, you walk away. But for you, like you're saying, you got to go through all of this stuff. How has this football taught you about, you know, just keeping fighting, going through that stuff?
Really great question. It's actually maybe like we prepared or we orchestrated that.
That was kind of wild.
Yeah, no, I really think that football for sure has prepared you for these life lessons. And as much as you kind of like things to go smooth and easy, life isn't just like football isn't. And when you get young, when you're young and you go through the ramifications of tough challenges and you're put in those decisions to quit or give up, football, knock down, do you quit, lay there, or get up? Well, football makes us all get up. And in these tough situations, these tough times, feeling sorry for yourself, whining, being a victim, being sad, that doesn't get you up. It doesn't get it accomplished. So that kind of put the DNA, that foundation in you absolutely to handle, you know, these kind of life lessons. And then, you know, like we were joking, you know, off air, you know, our football family. You know, we really have brothers, a brotherhood of us that we relate and stick together, and a group of friends that's really able to pull things together through this.
We talked with one of your brothers last night, or on the show yesterday, Leroy Horde, of course.
How's he doing?
He's doing good.
He's doing good.
And he was, of course, telling the story about you blowing off Belichick's play and that touchdown you threw, and the players were like, well, Bernie's telling us to do it, so we should do it. And then how awkward it was on the sideline. Can you take us through that again from your perspective?
You was changing the plays in the huddle?
Well, it wasn't changing. Well, you would change plays in the huddle, but the way I was raised in quarterbacking with the great Howard Snellenberger, proud to be the only guy with Jimmy Johnson at the U, at the Cowboys and the Dolphins. Don Shula in the 1972 offense of the undefeated Miami Dolphins was the system that I was raised in. And they told me unequivocally, not only will you change the play in the huddle, that you will change, I will coach you so good that thou must change the play at the line of scrimmage. Because they're guessing where the safeties and the Mike linebacker, the strong weak safety is going to be, what the D coordinator is going to call. They're going, I'm going to coach you so good that you'll see it and be able to anticipate where they're going to go.
So this wasn't a huddle change. This was you got to the line of scrimmage.
Well, I kind of thought it was going to be in the huddle. So I had an issue with back in the day. It's funny with as a early stage Parkinsonian symptoms and early stage dementia, I could really sharply remember things crystally clear. And Steve Atwater and Dennis Smith were safeties, and they were super aggressive.
Yeah.
And it's a result-oriented world, and just like football is. And I was a guy who could not waste plays. So they were squatting on all my stuff. They didn't think I was throwing hard, deep. Our line wasn't blocking, so they knew to play tight. They didn't have enough time to throw, so we had never run a square in takeoff, and double moves are my thing against you nosy defensive backs, okay? Especially if you do not respect my arm strength, and it was dissipating at that time. So I really needed to come up with a creative way to do things. So I kept max protection, and I had never run a square in takeoff back then, and I was doing double moves like hitch and goes, slant and goes. But I wanted to get to safeties.
So you hit him with a dig and go.
I hit him with a dig and go, and because sometimes, like, I'm too lengthy in my conversation here, it's too wordy for a huddle, and we're visual people, and sometimes we're not overly intelligent in the heat of battle with concussions going. So you get out your Crayola crayons, and you get the old spray-painted landfill mud at a Cleveland Stadium, and you just drew it. And I really, in double moves, young receivers, you tend to go too quick and you hesitate too quick.
3 steps. You got
3 steps.
take
I
that-
drew
run
it
that
real
route, 3
crystal
steps,
clear.
then hit it.
Yeah, with a couple of little F-bombs in the middle to make sure it was articulated right to do. And then, Dennis Smith Atwater bid on us. It was a simple touchdown. Ironically, my last passes are Brown. And I kind of thought it was Belichick was going to be happy with it because we needed a quick score and we needed another score to get back in the game. I was wrong.
No, you were not wrong. He was wrong. He let his ego get in the way.
Well, part of it was that it wasn't being insubordinate, but just the ability to just articulate what you're doing after the fact. I wasn't as blameless as I want to be.
Did you ever think about being going into offensive coordinator?
Yeah, you know what? I really, and even now, and it's actually to the awesome conversation on kicking and what to do and stuff. So I am groomed. I'm not saying this to be funny, and I really want to talk my way into good spirituality in heaven right now with some of the karmic stuff that's going on with me physically. So as a spiritual healer and an empathetic man in the fourth quarter of my life, I really lived by that. That isn't the human that played football, okay? And that's not the human that won games, okay? And we have multiple personalities. And the football personality of Bernie Kosar is that Howard Snellenberger, Jimmy Johnson, Don Shula. And if you watch that awesome Cowboys documentary that's going on right now, which unfortunately I could have and should have been in, but I was sick last year when they were filming it at the Ring of Honor type stuff. Massively cool, proud moment of my life to be in that environment with Jimmy over multiple decades and stuff. But Howard Snellenberger was so tough on us, and Jimmy Johnson was massively tough. As you watch that documentary, well, we thought he was soft in 1984 at the University of Miami. We were that sick. And I love Howard Snellenberger. God bless you, sir, up in heaven, but you'd be in jail on earth here today doing what he did to us, okay? And the toughness. So he personally guaranteed practice. Like when those guys fainted at practice, you just fainted. You'd rather be dead because you were going to get cut, okay? And belittled, berated, hazing, and pain and assault was allowed and anticipated back then. So, I mean, Coach Snellenberger, I love you so much. We used to have 100 guys on the team. I go, how do you decide on these long-winded practices when to quit, when you stop practice? He goes, I wait till 10% of the team is hooked up to an IV bag. Like it wasn't passing out, it wasn't fainting, it wasn't throwing up because you could fake throw up, you could fake faint. Okay, so you had to actually be inserted for the IV.
Wow.
So on 10% of the team, 100 people, that's 10 guys in August. Well, that toughened you up, or you died and quit. And back then, they were trying to run a lot of us off the team because, you know, if you had long scholarships, so to get extra openings, you had to either get you to die or quit.
Oh my God!
And if you didn't do those two, you survived to be a player on that team.
Who would have known
Wonder
that
what he
Bernie
would've-
was a Navy SEAL?
Yeah, man.
You got to drown in the pool before you get to be on SEAL Team 6.
Can you imagine if there was NIL? I don't think Coach would have been happy with NIL in those days.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure you would have had any life to spend it. I mean, we had curfews 365 days a year. 11 o'clock curfew.
Every day.
No alcohol, no girls in the room. Now, you would sneak it sporadically, but it wasn't a daily thing.
Right,
and it was
right.
multiple checks during the night. Like, you think you're cool. You know, you make a check-in at 11, you know, and it's 11:20, you're done. You tiptoe out. Well, then the double check comes at 2. You know, you're at Breakfast Club till you want to die.
Don't mention Breakfast Club no more. Don't
You'd
do
be
it.
up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You run till you puke. You know.
Well, let's
Well, now
transition
that we
to
are
let's
family
transition
show,
to
yeah.
what did you make of Joe Flacco playing as a 40-year-old guy? Did he look like he lost any ability? Did you like what you seen from him? What was your thoughts on Joe?
So I was so impressed. I can't believe that both quarterbacks combined threw for less than 300 yards and they played exceptional. Okay, that's how challenged both offenses were in the game. The Cleveland Browns defense and the defensive line was beyond exceptional, destroying anything that Joe Burrow had, and then Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome stepping up, shutting down the safety,
Jamar Chase and T.
the
Higgins.
receivers. But for Joe Flacco to, in that situation, to play as professionally as he did and to handle the game, I thought he played exceptional. And actually, again, that to me is 40 years old. That is not optimal in the long run, but I love the way he's playing. And unfortunately, you know, you could see we are really inexperienced and we don't have the amount of playmakers that the other people have. And if you get Jerry Jeudy focused on, you know, you're limited around there. It's awesome that Harold Fannin, you know, is stepping up like that. But, you know, there's only a handful of things. The running game was challenging, and you could absolutely need a Junkins type back to physically run and then establish the play action. Because the Bengals did not even respect really the running game from that. And so for Joe Flacco to master all those inconsistencies and little mistakes and still put us in a position that we should have won the game.
Yep.
I mean, the Cleveland Browns were better than the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday.
They were.
You know, we were that was okay, it's disappointing to be 0-1, but we were physically better than them. And I respect that team. Okay, Cincinnati Bengals is not a bad team. So from that perspective, it was good to see, you know, the team, you know, standing up physically.
Yeah.
And we got to get better, though, at showing our physical presence because we're not going to outmatch make people.
Bernie, you mentioned Fannin there briefly in the running game. Of all the rookies, who are you most impressed with? You got Fannin, you got Sampson, you got Schlesinger, you got Graham. I guess those are the 4. Guessing Andre Schmidt doesn't make the impressive list. Who of those guys, who was the most impressive to you?
Yeah, so it's awesome to not be hedging and not be a homer here, but to say that, you know, all the flack that Browns sometimes get or Andrew Berry, that's not an easy question to answer because Schlesinger, Fannin, and the back were exceptional for rookie playing. So when you can name 3 guys like that and you could debate either one is being close, then that's pretty good, you know, from that perspective. I have a whole litany. I know we're up against something.
No.
But I have a whole litany of, unfortunately, opinions on kicking and that situation.
Well, tell us, share it
Tell us.
before,
We're not up against it.
So it's partly, and I, as an empathetic spiritual healer in the fourth quarter of my life, I really, and as a scarred Catholic, still want to believe in second chances and forgiveness. And you all deserve a second chance and forgiveness, except in NFL football. And it's not fair. It's so not fair.
Yeah.
But life's not fair. And it's actually why I don't want to really be making these decisions.
Yeah.
The last 30 years. I am deep down a pleaser. I don't want to be eating you alive when you make a mistake that most everybody makes in the world. But when I go again, I am a disciple of Coach Snellenberger, Coach Johnson, Coach Shula, okay? And there is no tolerance for mistakes. And fear is a massive motivator, okay? And you may think you're talking about you and the kicker, okay? When the kicker made the mistake, okay? But you're really talking to the whole locker room. Everybody needs to know that you could die with a mistake, okay? You need to know that Tyvis, you're gone, and G. Bush, you're also gone, okay, with the wrong mistake. And it could be a lightning rod. So if possibly a ball got deflected off your hand, you want to die and impale yourself as opposed to say, it's just a one pass, it got deflected, it happens in the NFL. You really think twice about what your answer is. Even if your answer is a lie, you say you want to die. You don't say, it's the NFL, hey, maybe one ball will get dropped. No, not one kick gets dropped. Not one ball gets dropped. Not one football gets misthrown. Not one tackle gets missed that you don't want to impale yourself. And that's actually why I don't want to coach, because it's not healthy. Don't think like that. Yeah. That's why I'm alone in my personal life, okay? It's not healthy at all, but it is how you win football.
I'm like, bro, he ain't lying. They ain't ready for it like that, though.
No, it's a sickness. Look at Mr. Bobcat, Coach Brian Rice, Smith this week. You guys are going to the shoe. You guys believe,
Well, that's certain things that when you talk about that game, there's some things you can do and there's some things you can't.
All right, Mikey's got a question for Bernie. Go ahead, Mike.
I did, Bernie. I'm curious because we've had some discussions like this, but we don't have the ability to actually be in a quarterback room like you do to draw your answer from. We know Flacco's the starter for the time being. We know Gabriel's the backup. We know Shedeur's the third string at the time. If you were in the Browns organization, how do you go about developing these two young rookies while also knowing neither's the starter yet? What's the right process to make sure they're getting developed properly within the current construct of trying to win football games as well?
And we want the Don Shula, Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, how they do
not today's coaching style.
Yeah, well, you don't get today's coaching style. You'll probably get a little more reps and a little more attention than the old guys got. So it's just get your stuff together back then and hope they had depth in their staff and depth in their organization to maybe have some guys to kind of focus on you. The development, the development of young quarterbacks who aren't playing, and one of them's hard, let alone two. And now you add shortened preseason, shortened work schedules, less time in the building. So that none of that's easy and optimal right now. And there's no real experience like playing in games, and you're not really going to get that. And the longer you don't get that, the harder it is to kind of get it back. So that none of that's optimal in the short run. So if we're looking for a magic from that to make a salvation of the season, I'm a positive human being that loves to live in Disney World at Cinderella's castle in my brain, and that's even a loft for me to even kind of think I'm going to have to go back on medication to get my brain up in that space. Actually, one of the possible scenarios that, could be more interesting / tragic is I heard you guys a segment or two ago talking about Deshaun Watson and possibly playing, not playing. There's there's cost things you do from a business side with people who are on PUP and stuff that you could offshoot their salary. So if, say, hypothetically, there was a player that had a $40 or $50 million salary, he wasn't going to play, you could probably buy an insurance policy for 10, 12 million, buy it out, and if he doesn't play, you pay 10 or 12 million instead of 45. But that guy can't play. But we do have a NFLPA that doesn't like you to do that to us players.
Right. Yeah, sure.
So if, say, Deshaun wanted to play and felt he was healthy, he could attempt to force the team and the union to say, I'm healthy, attempt to let me play and be active. Now, Browns may say, well, look good, let's make him active, we got to pay him. Well, then that may void an insurance policy.
That's true.
Bring him in there to play, and then even take more reps away from the 2 rookies who you guys want to see, who I want to see, who I want to develop. So that could be actually more attorneys could get more involved in that type
I didn't
of
think
stuff.
about that. That's a good point.
Yeah. Did
Very
you
good.
see much like what you saw of them in the preseason and in practice, training camp? What did you think of those 2 guys?
I really liked them. I liked a lot about them. I think we are victims as quarterbacks. We are victims or beneficiaries of the guys around us. I just said Joe Flacco and Joe Burrow played great, and their statistics were horrible.
Yeah.
Okay, could you imagine if you're a rookie quarterback and you got to go with all those bullets flying there? The chance to be successful would be almost nil with the issues of weapons. And then our line wasn't in sync exactly either for that. So I think that both their timings were really good. I thought Shedeur tried to do a little too much in the second game, but man, I love his confidence. I love his calmness. I love his personality. The people that say his personality is off and that, I think it will galvanize the locker room. I thought both of them showed calmness in their feet, under pressure with guys like Tyvis this close, being able to still stand there, keep their heads up and look down the field. So they both did a really nice job with that. So, again, it's not optimal to play right now, but I do think they showed good signs.
When you look at it, some of the things that it kind of frustrates me because I don't think people understand that you don't really learn unless you're in that frying pan. The difference in the level between practice and walkthrough and being on that field when somebody's game planning for you is just night and day. And at the highest level, it's like it could be like daunting. How important is it to get game reps? We talk about these guys possibly playing 2 or 3 games. Can you evaluate a guy on 2 or 3 games, and how much time do they need to see if they really have what it takes to be a quarterback?
So that is, unfortunately, how I thought I had to develop, and you have to develop, is by playing those games. And yeah, in a couple games, you could absolutely get a good feel for it, just like I so strongly believe you can't get a good feel for it by watching me practice for 5 years. Because, again, here I am. I'm throwing. I'm ready. Tyvis is right here. I'll throw a beautiful ball to you, Bull, right now, because I know Tyvis ain't going to kill me.
No chance.
Practice, the studio.
Yeah.
It's friggin' Thursday, okay? But Sunday at 2, I'm nervous, okay? and then the body, even though I say I'm not, okay, and now do I twitch? Do I hang? Does my head drop? How do I handle? You only know, you're so right, G. Bush, until you got game reps. In a couple games, that's not enough to make or break you, but you really should have a good feel. Because look at it, if you're gonna run me over 2-3 times, Joe Burrow got crushed by Myles Garrett.
Oh my God.
Okay?
My God.
And that head stayed up.
Sure.
Okay, let's see after the Mike Tyson. We all got a plan until you get whacked, punched in the face. Okay, after you punch me in the face, does my head drop? Or do I stay up and I let you punch my chin again and break the other side of the jaw?
Bernie, how do they get it done on Sunday? Right now they're 11.5-point dogs. How can they beat the Ravens on Sunday?
Yeah, this again, I could say some funny stuff that it tends to be demeaning in that, and it's gonna take complete special type stuff. You know, it's too much to say. Living in Disney World, Joe Flacco coming home. Some of the stuff they're doing from the marketing side of it is going to galvanize and make it a euphoric type visiting locker room to take over the stadium. Could a team like Baltimore take us for granted and let things slip? You know, unfortunately, they did that last year, and they blew week 2 against the Raiders. You know, if that wasn't...
And they lost last week against Buffalo.
So they started 0-2 last year. You know, I love John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Okay, I know Browns fans, we want to hear it. He's lock and loaded. That's a Hall of Fame coach. He knows he's going to layer in 0-2 last year. They had the biggest winnable game against the Raiders with some massive double-digit point spread, just like this year. So I really want to say I want the Ravens to let it be asleep and not be ready, but because they screwed up last year against the Raiders, I think Harbaugh's so far up their backside that it's going to be a massively tough task.
Bernie, we got to wrap it with this. The Ravens Sunday are celebrating their 30 years in Baltimore. I know they planned this before the season. They didn't know who they were playing week 1. Fans are very upset here. I know the players don't care because they're all young, but the fans are very upset that the Ravens are doing this. Do you have a problem with it?
So I love Joe Flacco's answer yesterday. I think so. If I could, regurgitate back and didn't have all the cognitive issues, I'd love to regurgitate back his cognitively fluently articulate answer. If I was a player, I would have manifested that into a frenzy. So I'm not sure if players I would, I think that would be raising my hostility level. As an old guy now with it, I get what's going on with that. I actually think that that's something that would in a psychological way actually be in the Browns' favor, because I would be so irate with that as a player.
Yeah, I wonder if the players, because I know Mary Kay asked Denzel specifically because he's from here, and Denzel said he really didn't care, but then she asked, what about your family, and do they care? And he was like, I'll go ask them. I don't know, but I know a lot of older fans especially are going to be are pissed. They're frustrated.
I was actually, as I was getting ready to come on here, and I was goofing around on social media, and I had put something out there, and I don't always read the replies and stuff, and I saw one reply was like, "Hey, you're a Modell apologist." And I would say, even to this, I had heard that David Modell, who's unfortunately passed to, I know Browns fans don't like to say that, but Mr. Modell, Art Modell, David Modell's passed, and his sons, David Modell's son's going to do it.
Yeah.
Do we really want to yell at that kid?
He's
innocent.
Know what I'm saying? Yeah, sure.
I mean, stuff happens, and I got both sides of the equation then. So
And you had a personal relationship. That's a different story than most.
And
people.
this is fourth quarter, Bernie.
Fourth quarter. This is I want karmatic positivity.
But if you were the quarterback of the Browns and you were 28 years old, you'd be firing everybody up about this, right?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, I'm not here praying to any god, any religion that's appropriately going to help me right now.
Yeah.
I'm into that space.
Yeah.
So,
Bernie, we wish you the best.
Appreciate you.
Good luck with everything. Condolences on your dad, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, guys. You matter.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Bernie Kosar, the best in the business. Thank you for coming in, Bernie.